Everyone knows that for steaks,
Duck fat makes all the difference.
and in film and television, the right song,
Makes all the difference.
sound is an incredibly evocative medium, and its presence or its absence can produce an emotional response that wouldn't be possible otherwise. This is why I believe that film is the most complete art form. It can combine the visual splendor of art or architecture with the emotional potency of sound or music, while telling whatever story it wants to. Music is a particularly popular evolution of sound in our modern world. Music is sound's bigger, handsomer, more successful younger cousin, if you will, who moonlights working in soup kitchens and practicing jujitsu, so he could still kick your ass if it came down to it. Incredibly, music has been shown to light up the entire brain of the listener. It can make us feel happy, sad, nostalgic, hopeful, hopeless, and everything in between with an efficiency that other mediums just don't match. For example, I can watch Prisoners and feel like I need to hibernate for a few hours to sleep off the depression, but it takes me a whole movie to get to that point. But when I listen to The Sound of Silence or Hurt or Comfortably Numb, I get to that place in 10 minutes or less. You see what I mean about efficiency? Music in television and film has a very rich history. From Goodfellas to The OC, music has been used to promote new bands and artists, complement the events we see on screen, but more importantly, it brings the vibes. The vibes are what we feel. I know this is all incredibly scientific, but bear with me. Vibes is the word that we've chosen collectively, I guess, as a society, to describe the effect that an ambiance can have. But despite this word being overused to the point of not really meaning anything, it's actually quite a good descriptor for what music does to us. Vibes is short for vibrations, and in the end, that's exactly what sound is. It's nothing more than vibrations emanating from a source until they reach a receptor, our ears. And what's most interesting is that variance in the frequency of these vibrations can produce actual physiological effects in our bodies. If you're interested in learning more, I'll link some fun articles I came across while making this video down in the description. But I think you get the point. Music literally brings us the vibes, and that's why it can have such a profound effect on us. And the vibiest of vibey ways to use music, in my humble opinion, within television and film is a good credits song, specifically a closing credits song. Yes, opening credits songs can set the stage or deliver a hook, but in my experience, a great hook doesn't quite hit the same as a great closer. Perhaps for the simple reason that the closer is definitionally the last exposure you have to the television episode or the film. It represents the culmination of all of the events of the story, and when it's chosen well, the song can make you reflect on its significance as well as the significance of everything you watched in general. Let me share with you some of my personal favorites. Also, it should go without saying, but these being closing credit songs, there's going to be spoilers for the following films and television shows. I'll also make sure to timestamp all of these so you can jump around like a little bunny rabbit. Starting things off light, we have The Nice Guys. This is a Shane Black-written, neon-soaked, 70s-themed comedy starring Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. It's upbeat, wacky, and so thoroughly Los Angeles Americana groovy that this closing credits song by Al Green leaves us with the perfect note.
For the birds, hallelujah.
I just love the steady tapping that leads into that awesome guitar riff. Ozark capped off its final episode with Love and Happiness as well, but it works much better in this film. It fits the tone and setting of The Nice Guys basically perfectly, and it's an excellent send-off for one of the most underrated comedies of the last 10 years. I'm sure most of you could see this next one coming from a mile off. The Bourne trilogy is somewhat famous for using the same credits song in all three of its films, which is of course Extreme Ways by Moby. At face value, Extreme Ways is a good term to use to summarize Jason Bourne's life, but beyond that, the track just seems to fit for some reason. If I had to pick a favorite closing moment from the trilogy, it would have to be the closing moment from The Bourne Ultimatum, the final film in the trilogy. We are unsure if Bourne is alive or dead, and then we see a television broadcast from the perspective of his ally and former lover, Nikki. We hear the reporter say that Jason Bourne's body has not been found, and we see a wry smile creep across Nikki's face as Extreme Ways begins to play in the background. We then cut to Bourne surfacing, and he begins to swim away as the music continues to swell. Hard cut to black, and Moby continues his sweet music. I love this one because it ties the music to an actual plot reveal. The emotional heft that the twist would have on its own, or I guess the reveal would have on its own, is compounded by the familiar sound that has accompanied the endings to the two preceding films, letting the audience know auditorily as well as visually that Bourne is still out there kicking ass. There are few movie themes as iconic as the James Bond theme, but which Bond film uses this theme the best? For my money, it's really hard to beat Casino Royale. It's maybe difficult for many to remember what a breath of fresh air this film was. It rebooted the franchise into a smart, sleek, sexy, and serious spy thriller. Gone were the silly gadgets and over-the-top stunts, and in their place, we got intense sequences of action violence and testicular torture. But if anyone was worried that to lose the camp was to lose Bond, that just wasn't the case. We still got to see so many of the old Bond staples, like him drinking enough vodka martinis to pickle his liver by the end of the film. We got to see his playboy ways. We even got to see a fun twist on the shaken, not stirred line.
Vodka martini. Shaken or stirred?
Do I look like I give a damn?
But then, there's the ending scene. A very pissed off Bond has hunted down Mr. White to his absolutely fucking insane villa on Lake Como. I would kill for this house, by the way. Mr. White receives a phone call, and upon inquiring politely as to the identity of the mysterious caller, he gets sniped in the fucking foot by Bond.
Who is this?
As he crawls his bitch ass towards the stairs, we hear the theme begin to swell, and then our boy steps up and delivers his most iconic line of all, followed by one of the most iconic themes of all.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Hell yeah, brother. Bond is so back. It's a shame most of the other Daniel Craig Bond movies never reached these heights, sans maybe Skyfall, depending on how you feel about that one. I personally think Casino Royale is the best of the Craig Bond movies, but at least we will always have this movie. Casino Royale, in my opinion, is basically as close to perfect as a movie can get, not in least part thanks to its actually perfect ending scene. Want to know what other film is pretty much perfect? Fellowship of the Ring. That's what. It surely needs no introduction, and if it does, grow up, pause this video, and go watch that movie, because why the fuck have you not? The journey these characters embark upon in this first film is the definition of an odyssey. How many miles did they walk? How many orcs did they slaughter? How many Nazgul did they run from? How many Gandalfs died? Probably over 100. Ditto to the second question, 9 and 1. So I guess we know the answer to all of those rhetorical questions. But still, that's exhausting, no? And then Boromir gets murked in an act of such epic redemption. Holy balls, what an iconic moment in film. And then, Sam nearly drowns himself trying to catch up to Frodo as Frodo attempts to leave the Fellowship and strike out on his own to take care of business. By the end of this film, the audience feels almost as exhausted as the actual characters must be. So what song was chosen to accompany the credits, you may ask? Well, thank the good Lord that the filmmakers had the wisdom to hire Enya, because she wrote an absolute banger for this. May It Be is so soothing, so hopeful, and so quietly epic. There's really not a substitution that could be made for it that would work as well. If you have the inclination, make sure to listen to the lyrics as well. She sings about having the courage and wisdom and strength to overcome the trials of a treacherous journey, or just life. For me, it crosses the border from being a commissioned fantasy song for a film to being a quasi-prayer. A song that you could honestly listen to whenever you're going through a tough patch to give yourself a boost. Switching up the tone a bit here, let me tell you another reason I love a good post-credit song. If it slaps and I didn't know it previously, I've just gained
a fine addition to my collection.
An example of this phenomenon occurring in my own life is the closing scene from Silicon Valley Season 5, Episode 2. The main cast returns home only to discover that Jin Yang has shanghaied, I get to use that term appropriately in this video, his way into owning the house. He kicks them out, and as they stare in bewilderment at all their earthly possessions dumped unceremoniously onto the lawn, the episode cuts to credits, and we hear this groovy techno hip-hop-ish song start to play, which is cool. But then it gets even better when the vocals kick in, and we realize, oh, these lyrics are actually perfect for the scenario too. Let me just add this on Spotify real quick, and done. Okay, let's move on. For my final example, and this may be recency bias talking here, but I wanted to talk about Scrapper. I've been wanting to talk about the ending to this film ever since I watched it a week ago from the time of recording. Scrapper is a 2023 film about a young girl named Georgie who lives in West London who has recently lost her mother. She wants to be independent, so she dodges awkward questions about who she's living with, tricks social services, all in an attempt to live the same life basically that she did with her mom. In fact, she is insistent that the pillows stay in exactly the same order. All of the spiders that were in the house before her mom died need to stay alive as well. She wants the sights, the sounds, the smells, everything to stay the same because she just can't move on. In walks Jason, Georgie's estranged father, and the film is really about them learning how to be a family. It's really funny, it's really touching, and I cannot recommend it enough. But it also has the strength of a perfect ending. The penultimate scene shows Georgie and Jason finally admitting that though the situation may not be perfect, they need each other. And then for the final scene, we see them walking back from what we gather is the hardware store. The scene cuts to them painting the walls as they continue in playful, normal conversation. Georgie is finally living a normal life again, and so is Jason. But most importantly, the simple act of them painting the walls lets the audience know that Georgie is finally okay with starting to move on. As we see this, 17 by Youth Lagoon begins to play in the background and continues throughout the scene and on into the credits. It's a song about the difficult transition that it is to go from being young to being an adult, a transition that sadly Georgie has already begun at a mere 12 years of age. But despite the melancholy, the song is layered with hope, and combined with the scene, it's undeniably layered with hope. And because of this, it's one of the best examples on this list of a song whose vibes count even more than its words. As the credits rolled after I watched this for the first time, I just sat there with a smile on my face and tears welling up in my eyes because I was so happy to see Georgie and Jason finally reach a place where they were ready to grow up and grow together. The scene without the music and the music without the scene would never have worked on me as well, but together they make something really special. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, but stay tuned for part 2, my friends, because we're just getting started. Also, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe, comment down below what your favorite credit songs are, and we'll see you in the next one.